Portage at Arlington.
Cut, go, all the way. The First Row Sports Show. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. He's going in, holy shit. On CABC3, the future of broadcasting. With your host, Darnell Duff.
That ball hit hard. Stretch. Austin Jackson back looks up. You can. Ready to ball. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. I'm Darnell Duff, as always, and Theo Tutkaluk joins me in the booth today. How are you doing today, Theo?
I'm great, Darnell. Good to see you. The Juggernaut is ready for action.
You know, last couple weeks we haven't really heard anything of a Juggernaut, and yesterday you texted me I have a new studio name, and I just sort of sat there and I was wondering, what does this mean?
Well, I can't really call myself the excellence of execution because that's a wrestling term, and I can't say that I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be because I'm nowhere near perfect. But the one thing that we did mention on our last show was the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays have been playing baseball somewhat like a juggernaut. And I had several people listen to our show the last time we were on air, and they said, Theo, you know what? You're big. You've got a big voice. You've got a big heart. You've got a great thing to say about a lot of great things. You truly are a juggernaut when it comes to what you want to speak on. So I thought about it, and I said, well, the money sounds too arrogant. And Theo Michaels is just my first and my middle name. So I figured let's just call it the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is big, it's bad, it's bold, it runs through walls just like I used to. And you know what? It kind of fits my role pretty darn good. So the Juggernaut it is.
Well, there you go. We have Theo, the Juggernaut, Tutkaluk in the booth. Me, I just really haven't thought of a cool name for myself.
It's Triple D, man. It's not Diners, Drives-Ins, and Dives, baby. It's Darnell D. Duff, baby. And that's the way it's going to be. It's the Duff Man. And you know what? We'll come up with a good name. We got a couple years. Don't worry. We got some good stuff. How about the fact that, I'm excited for you. I think a lot of people are excited, Darnell. You and Brody have the opportunity to get to Toronto here in a couple of weeks. How excited are you getting?
I'm absolutely ecstatic. I never thought I would obviously get this opportunity. I just sent a couple emails just thinking, you know what? I'm here. I'm sitting in class, probably not doing anything. Let's send some emails, maybe get a connection. End up talking to the program director. He passes me off to the intern. He had to talk to a few guys in the studio, and I think it's most encouraging that he said there's going to be a few of them listen to my stuff, and from that point they enjoyed the stuff. So I think that's the most encouraging part going into Sportsnet. I'm only 20 years old, living in the big city, one of Canada's biggest city, Toronto. You got the Blue Jays. We're going to talk about the Blue Jays soon, but for Brody and I, this opportunity, I think it's one of the better ones we're going to have in our life.
Well, we hope to have a couple of shows before you guys go, but like I said, before we get to it, congratulations. It's going to be an awesome internship. I think it's going to be a proven success for you, and it's going to open a lot of doors, I hope. So let's see what happens.
Thanks a lot, Theo. Let's talk sports. That's what we're here for, right? A little bit of a longer introduction than we're used to here, but hey, it was a good introduction.
We'll go off topic a little later too. We had some shenanigans go down Saturday afternoon. I got to fill you in on, but yeah, let's talk about these Toronto Blue Jays. They had a home and home series, or sort of a home and home series, with our front mates, the New York Yankees, and the Yankees allowed the Blue Jays to win 3 in Yankee Stadium. These past 3 games, the Yankees took 2 out of 3. They sit a half game above the Blue Jays right now. Loop and Hutchinson get dropped to AAA, probably for a good thing, to keep them rested, but also keep their arms somewhat alive while they're on this 8-game road trip. You alluded to me earlier on the reasoning why. Please fill in our listeners here, D, why these guys are heading down to AAA.
Yeah, Aaron Loop was just sent down just for a reason. He hasn't been phenomenal for the Blue Jays this season. Now, he hasn't been awful. He hasn't been the reason why they're losing games. Aaron Sanchez, arguably, he did lose that game for the Toronto Blue Jays on Friday afternoon when they had a 4-run 8th inning when they were trailing 3-0. The Yankees were. They won that game 4-3. Drew Hutchinson has been phenomenal on home surface for the Toronto Blue Jays, and you look at they're 17-7 when Drew Hutchinson does start. Hutchinson is 12-2 on the year. On the road, though, he has a 9 ERA. So what their thought process was behind this, send him down to AAA Buffalo. He's going to get one start in the next 11 days with Buffalo, and then he's going to come back to the big club on August 29th tentatively and pitch on home surface again for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I actually saw a poll, should Drew Hutchinson be in the Toronto Blue Jays starting rotation as a 5-man rotation? 3,905 people voted yes. 1,596 people voted no. Now, I understand why they're going to a 4-man rotation on this 8-game road trip that starts in Philadelphia tonight. Going forward, though, I think you need to have Drew Hutchinson in the lineup. I think he does provide a spark. He's a young boy. He can throw hard. Road, yes, he does have his troubles. But what do you think about Theo? Do you think this was a good idea for the Blue Jays to send Hutchinson down?
You know what? Right now, it's going to be one of those things where I think it's a time will tell. I mean, you're going with a 4-man rotation. It's a very strong 4-man rotation. But having that said, we're at the time where we're at the end of the season. These boys have played close to 120, 130 games. You think of the rotation now, and you think of how much extra rest those starters may want in the last month and a half of play. And when you think about it, okay, you go into playing 2 different teams here in the next 8 games. Yeah, it's not a great deal to have, an extra pitcher in there. But it also gives a chance for your middle relievers to get some play because lately they haven't been on the mound at all. I mean, we've seen maybe 2 or 3 of them at most. Osuna, Sanchez, and maybe Lupa, the 3 big ones that have been used the most over the last couple of weeks. So now you have a chance to see the rest of the guys potentially pitch should those starters get into trouble. Drew Hutchinson does have the worst ERA on the mound. But as of late, I mean, he had that good win in New York where it was a 4-2 game. He also had another close one against Oakland, which was a 4-2 win. So, I mean, he's had games where he has shut down the opposing batters. But like you said, when you have an ERA of 9 on the road, that means the boys got to put up 10, 11, 12 runs. And, maybe Gibbons is thinking, well, we might not just get those runs when Drew's on the mound the next time. So maybe it is a good idea to put him in AAA ball, keep his arm alive but rest it at the same time, and then go back to this beginning of September, having a 5-man rotation and really giving that starting group an extra day of rest, which I think will benefit them to finish off the season. I mean, nobody said it was going to be easy to get into the wild card. Nobody said it was going to be easy to get top of the AL. But, I mean, they're there now, and the rest of the dogs are looking up at them. And I've always said it, the view ahead only changes if you're the lead dog. And if you're second, third, or fourth, all you're doing is sniffing somebody else's ass.
Well, I think one of their biggest reasons why they did send Drew Hutchinson down is his next game would have came against the Los Angeles Angels. Obviously, the Angels are trying to catch up on the Blue Jays. This is a team that can hit the ball, and like we said before a couple times, Drew Hutchinson has been awful on the road. Now, they're going to start against the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. They expect to get 2 wins against the Philly team. They traded Cole Hamels. I mean, they have R.A. Dickey on the mound today and Mark Burley tomorrow. So 2 of your better pitchers. David Price is going to pitch against the Los Angeles Angels. But you should expect to get 2 games off the Philadelphia Phillies. Although, when they played them a couple weeks back, they lost the first game. But this is a better team than they were a couple weeks ago. It seems like they're gelling together. Their chemistry is higher than it was. They have to win games, though. They're a half game behind the Yankees. They're only 4 games secure of a playoff spot in the wild card. If they don't win games, who knows? This team should be in the playoffs. Nothing's guaranteed, though.
You can't guarantee anything. I mean, you talked about Hamels being gone from the starting rotation. What about Papelbon finishing games? I think that's the security that Philadelphia is missing right now. But their record has changed considerably since the All-Star break, and I think they're playing a lot better ball now compared to what they were doing in May and June. So, I mean, with the Phillies, you can't really take anything for granted. I mean, you got to have great starting pitching. You can't take your foot off the gas pedal. I mean, you got to have the boys pitching well, the bat swinging hard, and the defense, I think, is what's going to keep this team together. I mean, they still haven't committed a fair amount of errors since Tulo was added to the lineup. You've got Goins playing second. You've got Pillar making phenomenal marshmallow catches. I mean, he bounces off the surface like a ping pong ball. Never gets injured, and he's tracking it like crazy. So I think we talk about the offense, we talk about the pitching, but the defense is what's going to keep this team together in close games. And when you have games that are 3-1, 2-1, 4-2, that is where it's going to matter most. And that's where the Blue Jays were losing games in the past when their defense was letting them lose or creating these losses. Now that defense is solid. Now you've got to back catcher that's shaping pitches. Now you've got a 4-man rotation. If you stick with a 4-man rotation for the next couple of series, they can get things done. And a little bit of a blip against New York, but that's New York. That's the way they play. You're playing the Phillies. You're playing the Angels. I mean, good things will come. I mean, it's going to be a lot of traveling for the boys. I mean, going from Pennsylvania all the way to Southern California, don't lose sight of what's got to get done in Southern California. That's always a nice place to visit. Just remember that there's work to be done.
There's some work to be done for the Toronto Blue Jays. And let me take you through a few stats before we move on to the PGA Championship. June 11th to 23rd, 2013, the Jays won 11 games in a row, moving to fourth place, 5 games out. They then went 3-8 to go last place. This year, they had an 11-game winning streak from June 2nd to 14th, 2015. So in that June period, it seems that the Toronto Blue Jays always seem to peak in June. Obviously, they had that peak with that 11-game winning streak that was snapped on Friday night, but then they went 6-5, moving into third place, a game behind. So I mean, this team, they're built around streaks. I don't think if this team goes 500 the rest of the way, they will not make the playoffs, because the Los Angeles Angels, they're realistically not a team that should miss the playoffs. The Houston Astros, led by Dallas Keuchel. Keuchel's 11-0 on home surface this year with a 1.23 ERA. I mean, the Houston Astros, you really can't say enough about them. But the Toronto Blue Jays have to start some sort of streak. They have to win 2 in Philly. They have to win 2 in LA. And the New York Yankees, I mean, I don't understand how this team is winning with their pitching staff. Outside of Masahiro Tanaka, I mean, you have Eovaldi, the guy who pitched yesterday for the Yankees. None of these guys are household names. CC Sabathia isn't the same CC Sabathia he was. Gained weight. He doesn't have much on his fastball anymore. He doesn't have much movement. He's not the same guy. It's really interesting to watch this Yankees team play. Alex Rodriguez seems to be back. Mark Teixeira's back. Brent Gardner. I mean, this is a very good Yankees club. Now, whether they can hold it or not is going to be the interesting part. But you got to focus on the Blue Jays if you're in Canada. We do that here on the First Row Sports Show, definitely. Do you picture, come the end of September, the Toronto Blue Jays in a playoff position?
I think I do. And I think I do because they've built something already at the beginning of August. They've made the right moves for the present to make the final push at the end of this season. Alex Anthopoulos has decided to put all of his cards into this 2015 campaign. It's important for the Blue Jays to now come through on the field. I think they don't have any excuses left for missing the playoffs. I think if they do miss the playoffs here, any excuse that's brought up in the newspaper, media, or from a microphone from a player, a GM, or a coach, whatever the case may be, will not be accepted by the Toronto fans, will not be accepted by upper management.
There's going to be some changes in Toronto if they don't make the playoffs.
You might see some work done. And I don't want to say like a Toronto Maple Leaf work done because there's no pylons. But, I mean, if you come short or you fall short from a playoff position this year, a question mark really has to come about and say, okay, why? Last year it was always, we fell short, we peaked too soon, we didn't have the bats, we didn't have the pitching, we didn't have the defense. All excuses were made. They've solidified the defense, they've added the bats, they've added the pitching. There's nothing else you can really say.
Well, I mean, they have pieces. They have offense, defense, and they have some pitching now. How does this team not make the playoffs? I mean, it's just so frustrating when this team has a lead in games. Their starters do great. David Price didn't have the best game on Friday. I mean, he gave up 11 hits, had 6 strikeouts, but I mean, it wasn't the Price we've seen in the first 2 games. But I think the most frustrating thing for me is the starters do what they're supposed to do. The bullpen comes in, gives a couple hits. Next thing you know, there's a home run. And I mean, the Blue Jays can't be losing games like this. They should have won 2 in New York. They should have been 5-1 against New York in their last 6 games, but they're only 4-2, and that was an absolutely huge game. I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays still should be holding a top of the AL East after that New York Yankees series. I mean, they have some work to do. The Blue Jays have work.
But they also have, I think, 8 games remaining against the New York Yankees still in the month of September. So, I mean, there's still a lot of games to be made up. There is still a lot of games to be lost. And nobody said, like I said before, nobody said it was going to be an easy path to get on top. And when you're on top, people want to knock you off. So that swagger needs to continue, that offense needs to. Everything has to continue for the Toronto Blue Jays in a positive manner. And I don't think they can get on themselves and be negative. I mean, I don't know, as a small footnote, Jabba Chamberlain opting out of a contract just because he wants to exercise his rights on a clause. Why would you want to do that when there's such an upside to the Toronto Blue Jays now? I mean, do you not want to pitch anymore? Do you not care about your career, Jabba? I guess you just want to be known as Jabba the Hutt instead of Jabba Chamberlain. The fact remains, the Toronto Blue Jays are on a hot streak right now. They are playing some of the best baseball in the major leagues. They have to continue with that swagger. They have to continue doing what they do to win games.
Well, it is a rare one, but it is a 2-game stand on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Tonight, first pitch, 7:07. You can catch all the action on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Finally, what I would say the best player without a major finally wins a major championship. That is Jason Day. He also breaks a record while doing so. We're going to have lots to talk about the PGA, the LPGA, a 17-year-old Canadian winning by 9 strokes. We're going to talk about it. You're listening to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting.
CABC3, the future of broadcasting. CABC, the future of broadcasting.
Welcome back to the First Row Sports Show here on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. Darnell Duff and Theo Tutkaluk. Well, after 2010, Dustin Johnson had a horrific story. He wasn't able to resurrect that story, if that's the right word. Anyways, he did not win the PGA Championship. An Australian-born player did. Jason Day, I call him the best player to not have a major as of before this weekend. Now, he's a great player with a major championship. Take me through Jason Day's round here. I mean, he was 5 under. It didn't matter what Jordan Spieth, who is now the best player in the world ranked-wise, did. He wasn't catching up to Jason Day. I mean, he was phenomenal. He made birdies. He made pars. He did exactly what he needed to do to win this tournament.
He played as good of, if not better, golf than Jordan Spieth in the last 72 holes. I think that really separates Jordan Spieth from Jason Day this past weekend. As a reminder, I called Jason Day as one of my top 3 to win the PGA Championship, which he did. We both had Jordan Spieth in there, and we had a couple other randoms. But the bottom line is Jason Day had a different focus. I think also the fact that he did play so well in 2010 gave him an opportunity to kind of say, I made that mistake before here, or this is how this plays out on this hole or this place or that place. He knew where to hit the ball. He knew how hard to hit the ball, how far to hit the ball. It seems like he was on point. Nothing could go wrong. I mean, he's made saves out of bunkers, put the ball on the right side of the cup almost every time. He made the round simple for himself, and he also was able to take putts, make putts that he needed. And all Jordan Spieth could do was give him a thumbs up. I mean, you saw it on the camera angle. I think it was on the 15th or 16th hole. Long birdie putt for Trident. It was perfect weight, 2 or 3 feet off. And you see Jordan Spieth walk in front of the camera, giving him a fist pump, thumbs up, and be like, dude, that was right on.
I mean, he's a total class act. He was talked after the round. He said, how do you think of this round? And all he said was, I played great. There's nothing I could have done to catch Jason Day. He's the first player in PGA history to finish a major at -20. Now, I'm not sure the next time that's going to be broken. I mean, I guess it could start on April 7th next year at the Masters, but -20 is a pretty crazy score. Jordan Spieth was the last one to get -19 in a major championship, but I mean, Jason Day has been slowly creeping his way up the rankings as far as being the best golfer in the world. Now, I'm not going to say he's the best golfer in the world, but I would say at this time he's in the top 5.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, here's a guy that comes off playing with vertigo in the previous major and walks it off like it's nothing. Goes to Britain or plays the British Open, plays phenomenal golf there and has a decent score. Wins the Canadian Open shortly thereafter. You knew that he was playing great golf and he was putting rounds together but not a full weekend together. And that is what separated him from the rest of the field over the last 4 days. He put together 4 rounds complete, on point, ready for action, ready to take Will on that course. Was not a hard course if there was no wind. This course was treacherous. Certainly he took care of business when he got out there early on the first rounds on Thursday and Friday. But Saturday and Sunday, he said on Sunday, that was probably the hardest round of golf he's ever played. To shoot 5 under on the hardest round of golf you've ever played, pretty impressive work. Nothing you can take away from that gentleman. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's just starting to peak in his prime. He hits the ball a ton. Great iron work. He had his putter going. I mean, between him and Jordan, I don't think they missed putts very often on Sunday.
Well, let's talk about Dustin Johnson for a second, and arguably should have been right there to win this tournament if it wasn't for an 8 on the first hole, quadruple bogey. In the first round, he made birdie and then par, and then 8. On the second hole, he made birdie, bogey, and then 3 birdies. And on the back, he was phenomenal in the first 7 holes anyways. He went birdie, eagle, birdie, 3 pars, and then a birdie. So, I mean, if he didn't have that 8, obviously it doesn't matter. Who cares? In the end, it doesn't matter. He didn't win this tournament. But it could have been a lot closer if not for that quad on number 1.
Well, the other thing you have to say about Dustin Johnson is, we've said it before about him, he has that slip-up. He has that 1 or 2 mistake. And like you said, when it's snowing on somebody's scorecard, chances are you're not going to finish in the top 3. And for Dustin Johnson, great round outside of that 1 hole. Absolutely. I mean, even Matt Kuchar said the same thing before he opened up on the final round. It's going to take something special for a guy that's between -8 and -11 to catch that last pairing of Spieth and Jason Day. He knew coming out. I mean, Kuch said it right off the hop. It's going to take something special. It's going to be like a gift of God, or it's going to be some kind of je ne sais quoi for me to have a chance to beat these guys at the leaderboard. They're all playing great golf.
Well, it seems like Brant Snedeker woke up a little bit, 3 under on the final day, 10 over total. I mean, you haven't really heard much of him. I mean, he has a nice golf swing. He was so good a couple years ago last year, but really this year you haven't heard much of him. I mean, I don't know why that's the reason. Maybe he's not playing as much golf. He's not taking it seriously, but he had a pretty good round at the PGA.
He did, and I think seeing his name on the couple of boards there meant something for him, like he still has a bit of fuel left in the tank. I mean, you could say the same about a lot of those golfers that played. Steve Stricker kind of struck me off guard this weekend, finishing with a 7 or 8 under par. So he was playing great golf. Even Rory McIlroy coming off his injury. I mean, he shot 9 under on the weekend. Pretty good stuff. I mean, when you shoot 9 under, 10 under, you think you have a pretty good shot to be in the top 10. This wasn't the case because you had 3 or 4 golfers lights out.
It's pretty crazy that you go 10 under par at a PGA Championship and you're defeated by 10 strokes like the 15th place finisher was this year. But let's talk about the new number 1 in Jordan Spieth. He made the cut in all 4 majors, and he absolutely killed anybody else that was close in relation to par. He was -54 total. Jason Day was the next with -54, or 35 rather. Jordan Spieth is a heck of a player. He's a young boy. I think he's only 21. He's now the number 1 player in the world. Rory McIlroy is number 2. He defeated Rory McIlroy by 8 strokes over the weekend. Do you think Jordan Spieth is warranted? I mean, I asked you before we came on the show, but tell our viewers live, do you think Jordan Spieth is warranted of a number 1 ranking?
Well, I think when it comes down to rankings, you play by the rules. I mean, the same goes when you have FedEx Cup rankings. If you play the golf courses that give you the points, and you fare well in those, you're going to get points. You're going to finish in the top rankings when it comes to that. When it comes to majors, absolutely the same thing. If you score well in majors, if you win a major, you get invited to play in other majors. So for Jordan Spieth, who has played a considerably great amount of golf, when you look at the four majors of this past year, he won 2 of them, he finished 2nd, and he finished 4th. I mean, those are in the likes of discussions with Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus, 2 other great golfers that have won the most majors, 1 and 2, that were able to say, okay, you know what, here's a young kid at now 22 who has done the same thing as those other 2 golfers. Like, he finished top 5 in all 4 majors this year. That's a feat that's hard to do. And when you do something like that, and yes, he's played a lot of golf, and yes, Rory McIlroy was injured due to some soccer injury. The bottom line is he played the golf, he finished well, he got the points, he's got the paychecks. If the points say to him or the golf rankings say he's number 1, and he's played the most golf. Congratulations, Jordan Spieth. You are number one.
Well, Jason Day has won 5 tournaments on the PGA Tour. Nothing even close to what he won, $1.8 million and the PGA Championship on Sunday afternoon. A Canadian winning a tournament. No, not on the PGA, on the LPGA. But we're going to talk about it after a quick song. You're listening to CABC3, the future of broadcasting. All right, welcome back to CABC3, the future of broadcasting. Some technical difficulties prevailed me from bringing a song to you. Anyways, we're going to get back to talking sports. Brooke Henderson, 17 years old, a Monday qualifier, ends up winning an LPGA tournament by 9 strokes on Sunday. Now, did you watch Brooke Henderson play over the weekend? It seems like she was playing phenomenal golf, but she was giving herself a lot of easy opportunity at birdies, and I think that's the biggest thing. We all know you have to hit straight and you have to hit good wedges, but for a 17-year-old Canadian to do this, I think this just speaks of young players these days. You look at Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, the young addition of players is coming up, and if you're not a young player, it's tough to win golf tournaments these days.
You're absolutely right. There's no rest for the wicked. Here's a wonderful Canadian female. Now, I know she's Canadian. I'm going to play, Homer here and stuff like that, but she walks in Monday afternoon, qualifies for the Cambria in Portland, Oregon, the Cambria Portland Classic, on the Monday of the tournament, and then goes out from Thursday to Sunday and beats the field by 9 strokes, shooting a -21. Wow. Talk about a great girl who has done something that only 2 other females have done in winning an LPGA event prior to the age of 18. Now, she turns 18 in September, but nonetheless, when you put together 4 rounds like that, kudos for you. Great job. She's got shout-outs from the Prime Minister of all people, too. So, it's got to be a huge feather in her cap. Her first LPGA win ever. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. First Canadian to win one since 2004. Great news.
Now, do you think Stephen Harper gave that shout-out so he can get a vote when that
comes?
Let's
leave the political voice out of this one.
Yeah.
You know how I don't talk about politics and religion.
Yeah, let's leave that out. But nonetheless, you think of a girl who isn't allowed to get a drink legally in Canada, isn't allowed to go in the casino to play blackjack or play the slots, and then here she goes. She wins over $1 million in a tournament. She's not even 18 years old. She can probably buy one of the better 2.6s when she turns 18 with that winnings. But nonetheless, does this just speak to how good young players are getting and just the work ethic from a young age? Because you can't pick up golf when you're 16 or 15 and think you're going to be that next player. It's when you're young. Tiger Woods did it when he was 2 years old. That's obviously another story. Tiger Woods is, if not the best player in the world. But you had to think this girl had a good ethic from a young age.
Well, you have to look at how the college sports, high school sports have evolved over the last 20 years. And there's more dominant sports, individual dominant sports now that are being taken care of at the schools. You look at the Division I colleges in the States especially, and almost every D1 school has a golf team. That was never heard of, having a golf team. And it's a big deal now. And you see a lot of guys, especially here at the University of Manitoba, when they have their junior programs and stuff like that go on. When you see guys playing and you see the great golf that they play, it doesn't speak wonders, not about their own personal powers and their personal efforts and skill levels and abilities, but the coaching that goes into these players. You have to look at how well their caddy, their mentor, their coach, their teachers all put this together for them as a group effort for them to succeed when they do become pro. Now, I know Brooke is, like I said, a very young female, and congratulations to her. She will become better. She struck the ball extremely well. She was fantastic in and around the greens, and she was making putts well over 20 feet that a lot of females were like, how is she? She's like, it's like a magnet, and it looked so effortless for her. And she was just humble. After everything was done, she just said, tee to green, fairways to green, hit the greens, hit the short stuff.
Pretty simple formula, isn't it?
Hey, you know what? If golf wasn't supposed to be, I love playing golf too. I make it exciting. I go hitting the rough all the time. that fairway stuff that's for the birds. I don't play that fairway golf. I like finding low-cut rough. I like finding dirty rough. I bring a pail to the beach once in a while. But I putt for dough, and that's the best part of my game, I think. For her, she had it all together. And, I mean, seeing both the PGA and the LPGA seeing scores like that shows how well those young players are being a dominant force. Room to grow, of course, and as well the opportunities that they will see in the upcoming years. There's no boundaries anymore.
Well,
none.
I know when I play golf, it's either my iron game and driving game is on point, and my putting is pretty much non-existent. Well, my putting is really never there. I mean, other than my round 3 in the club championship last year, I drained a couple nice putts on the first hole. At the Pine Ridge Golf Club, it's not an easy course by any means with some of those greens. It's more or less some gimmick greens. I mean, not a lot of people like it. 16 with that down, up, down again. I mean, it's a tough, but nonetheless, 17 years old, she wins just about $1 million, LPGA Tour. Brooke Henderson, we wish her the best of luck here from the First Row Sports Show.
Absolutely. Good for her. Congratulations, and hopefully someone else pays the bill when you turn 18.
You've been listening to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. I'm Darnell Duff, Theo Tutkaluk. We'll see you later. Have a great day.